The war between Ukraine and Russia has increasingly turned into a battle over critical infrastructure, logistics, and energy supplies, as both sides adapt their strategies to target each other's ability to sustain long-term military operations. Ukraine, using a combination of drone technology and precise intelligence, has launched a series of highly targeted attacks on Russian energy infrastructure, particularly oil refineries and train networks transporting petroleum products. The goal of these strikes is not only to disrupt Russian supply lines, but also to undermine the very fuel sources that power Russia's war machinery. One of the most recent and notable strikes occurred when Ukrainian drones attacked a Russian train carrying petroleum products, causing a massive explosion that reportedly crippled parts of Russia's logistics chain in the Zaporozhye region. These kinds of strikes have become a central part of Ukraine's war effort, as the country seeks to weaken Russia's capacity to sustain its military forces. The choice of targets, railways, oil refineries, and fuel depots highlights Ukraine's focus on hitting Russia where it hurts the most, its ability to move troops, equipment, and fuel supplies to the front lines. Meanwhile, Russia has been quick to respond by bolstering its defenses in key regions like Crimea, where the strategically important Kerch Bridge has been the target of multiple Ukrainian attacks. The bridge, which connects the Russian mainland to Crimea, is a critical artery for Russian logistics, and its destruction or disruption would severely limit Russia's ability to move resources into Crimea and southern Ukraine. As a result, Russian forces have taken significant steps to fortify the bridge and other key infrastructure sites in Crimea, installing additional defenses and barriers in an effort to repel further Ukrainian drone strikes. However, Ukraine's drone operations have been remarkably effective despite these efforts. In addition to physical targets like railroads and refineries, Ukraine has struck at the heart of Russia's energy infrastructure, including power stations and energy processing plants. While these attacks have not crippled Russia's economy, they have undoubtedly caused logistical headaches and made it harder for the Russian military to maintain a steady supply of fuel and other essentials. Ukraine's strategy appears to be one of gradual attrition, picking off critical assets that are harder and harder for Russia to replace due to sanctions and other international pressures. On the economic front, Russia is already facing challenges due to Western sanctions, which have cut off much of its access to advanced technology and spare parts needed to maintain and upgrade its oil infrastructure. Ukrainian attacks have exacerbated these difficulties, particularly by targeting refineries that are key to Russia's oil export and fuel production. Although these attacks haven't caused a dramatic decline in Russian oil output, they have forced the Kremlin to spend more resources on protecting and repairing vital energy infrastructure. Additionally, disruptions to the transportation of refined fuel have led to increased costs, a decline in exports, and reduced tax revenues, further straining the Russian economy. In territories like Kursk, Ukrainian forces have made tangible progress, reclaiming over 100 villages and pushing deeper into Russian-controlled areas. These gains, though incremental, are a testament to Ukraine's determination to reclaim lost ground, while also creating buffer zones that complicate Russia's efforts to launch effective counteroffensives. Russian attempts to retake lost ground in the region have been largely ineffective, as Ukraine continues to hold on to its gains. Ukraine's use of drones represents a significant shift in modern warfare, allowing for pinpoint strikes on high-value targets without the need for costly and dangerous manned operations. These drones have proven difficult for Russia to defend against, despite the installation of more sophisticated air defenses. Each successful drone strike highlights the asymmetry of the conflict, where Ukraine's technological and tactical ingenuity is being used to offset Russia's numerical and material superiority. On Russia's side, the Kremlin is scrambling to respond to these attacks while continuing to push forward in other theaters of the war. While Russia has maintained its oil production levels, the cumulative impact of Ukrainian strikes, combined with sanctions and the high cost of war, is beginning to take its toll. Russia's oil and gas sector is a crucial source of income for the country, and any prolonged disruption to this sector could have far-reaching economic consequences. So far, Moscow has managed to keep the lights on, But if Ukrainian operations continue at their current pace, Russia may find it increasingly difficult to maintain the stability of its war economy. In summary, Ukraine has turned the war into a battle of logistics and resources, targeting key Russian infrastructure with precision and persistence. The continued use of drones to disrupt Russia's energy and supply networks demonstrates Ukraine's strategic ingenuity as it seeks to weaken Russia's war effort without engaging in costly frontal assaults. Meanwhile, Russia is attempting to shore up its defenses and protect its energy sector. But the ongoing strain of sanctions, combined with Ukrainian attacks, suggests that the Kremlin's ability to sustain a prolonged war could be at risk. Moreover, Ukraine's attacks are eroding Russian morale. Each successful drone strike within Russian territory undermines the Kremlin's narrative that the war is distant and does not directly affect ordinary Russians. As more strikes hit critical infrastructure, the economic impact becomes harder for the Russian government to hide, especially if fuel prices rise or shortages begin to affect everyday life. On the military side, the strain is becoming more apparent. The supply of fuel to the front lines has slowed, complicating Russia's ability to move heavy equipment and launch coordinated offensives. Without a reliable and consistent flow of fuel, Russia's war effort could stall, particularly in areas where the terrain and distance make logistics challenging. Economic and political repercussions. The broader economic impact on Russia is already being felt. Although Russia has managed to maintain a relatively steady level of oil production despite sanctions, the attacks on its infrastructure are forcing the government to allocate more resources to defense and repairs. This increases costs at a time when Russia's access to foreign investment and technology is severely limited. The long-term sustainability of Russia's energy sector is at risk. Even though Russia has been able to pivot to new markets, such as China and India, for its oil exports, the logistical and infrastructure challenges posed by Ukrainian attacks and sanctions mean that these sales are less profitable than they would have been under normal circumstances. The need to repair and protect refineries, pipelines, and transportation routes eats into profits, reducing the Kremlin's financial flexibility in the long run. Politically, Ukraine's success in targeting Russian infrastructure is sending a message to the world that it can punch above its weight in this conflict. Despite Russia's superiority in terms of conventional military power, Ukraine's innovative use of technology and its focus on high-value targets show that it is capable of significantly weakening Russia's ability to wage war. Conclusion: Ukraine's campaign against Russian infrastructure is proving to be a highly effective strategy in the long term. By using drones to strike at critical energy and logistics hubs, Ukraine is forcing Russia to fight a war of attrition, one that saps its economic and military strength. While these strikes won't end the war overnight, they are gradually eroding Russia's capacity to sustain its war effort. As the conflict drags on, Ukraine's ability to disrupt Russian logistics and energy supplies could prove to be a decisive factor in shaping the outcome of the war.